Alright, so taking a look at our review here for Unit 3B, I want to start off with our vocabulary here. So we're going to kind of focus on the key words and how we kind of visualize these translations, or transformations, I should say. So for a translation, we want to think about sliding it around, moving left and right. We're not changing the orientation of the object. It's not spinning, it's not flipping over. The left doesn't become the right, the up doesn't become the down, or top to bottom, or vice versa. So we're sliding it around. A reflection, we're dealing with mirror images. It's the idea of a visual flip. So things are flipping over or rotating about a line of symmetry or a line of reflection. So again, that's kind of our, dealing with it looks the same on opposite or opposing sides of that line. Rotation, we're again kind of self-explanatory, kind of spinning it around, moving it. The key idea here is that we see a pattern of change, so we can visualize that shape going either clockwise or counterclockwise, and the point's orientation moving accordingly. Dilations, we talked about, that means a shape growing or shrinking in size, so its whole physical appearance actually changes. Whereas in isometry, that means that a shape is not changing in shape or size, just its position relative to the axes or the grid is changing. So when we're answering these here, we have number one, spins around a fixed point. That's going to be our rotation. Changes the position of a figure without changing the shape or size. We said there that's our isometry. Moves or slides a figure, that's our translation. And a mirror image of itself or a certain line of symmetry, there's our reflection. Alright, we're going to do each of these problems, kind of like we referenced yesterday, that to ensure we get these things right, we're going to use a kind of logic our way through. So, translations are kind of the easiest ones to pick and choose from. So if we look at choices B and D, we can see if those work out here. So let's look at B. So here we're thinking of it moving right 1, down 2. So if I choose my B, and look how it gets to B prime, there's no way here that I'm going right 1 and down 2. So I could say that one's not going to be it. Looking at D, it's saying right or left 2, down none. So okay, it's working here. I can move left 2. Well, and move down. That one's okay. But if I go to check something like Q, it does not make sense. Okay, now we're down to 2 reflections. So if we're looking here, we know it's a reflection because we can see that the shape is kind of switching. So Q moves from right to left, V moves from left to right when we get those different prime locations. So we need to figure out where the middle is. So if I look at my B's here, I can see that this is going to be the middle. So that's the line of symmetry, that's the axis, where that's the location we're reflecting over. And it's on the right side of the axis, so that would be x is equal to positive 1. Alright, so this one we see we don't even have a translation as an option. I always suggest checking to see if it's a translation first, just like we did in the practice. If that doesn't work, then we move on. Reflections are also kind of okay to see. So if we look at these two, so if we looked at our first one, a reflection across y is equal to negative x. So we talked before, that's this line going through. So this would be the line, y is equal to negative x. So let's go ahead and compare those two options there. Y is equal to negative x and y is equal to x. So that would be this line. Oops, sorry. Not the best drawing there. So again, if we're looking, we could check our rules that we've talked about, such that when we reflect over y is equal to x, we just change the coordinates. So the x goes to where the y was, the y goes to where the x is. Whereas y is equal to negative x, we both change the order and then change the positivity or negativity of the sign as well. We can see if we check those that they're just simply not going to work there. So if we look at this one, so if we're looking here, we can see that it's not going to be reflection across y equals x or y is equal to negative x. We can eliminate those two options. Oops, sorry about that, guys. Okay, now, we see our choice here. We're looking at rotate 90 clockwise or counterclockwise. So, possibility should tell us that we're at 90 degrees. We just need to pay attention to the direction. Now, key indicators. This is why I kept reminding you all to make sure you look at your primes, right? So this S, that's represented as where the position started. That's where our shape began. It traveled to S prime. So we could see that it's going in that clockwise motion. It's the same way that hands on a clock travel. So therefore, we're at choice B, 90 degrees clockwise. Alright, number 7, as always, we check our translations first. So we got to make sure the translation works for every set of points. So you see, I'm always going to look for that one first. So here we only have one option that's a translation. If we had more than one, we'd check them all. So it's saying I'm going right 3, up 1. So if I look, let's try the U first. So right 1, 2, 3, up 1. Okay, well that one works. Let's try my K, right 1, 2, 3, up 1. We're good there. H, 1, 2, 3, up 1. And G, 1, 2, 3, up 1. So it works for all the points. So we got kind of quick with that one here. Our answer is going to be B. Alright, lastly, looking at 8. So let's check our translation. We have it as an option here. We always check those first. So this is saying left 7, down 1. So let's try J. Left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, down 1. Or up 1, I should say. So even worse, not even close, right? So translation's not going to work. And we check our reflection. So I look across y is equal to x. So that's this line. Nope. Right? So it wouldn't be even close here. It would look a little better maybe if we had y is equal to negative x, but that option's not going to do anything for us. So if we're looking here, we're determining whether it's 90 counterclockwise or 180. So let's check D first with that 90-degree counterclockwise. So for this, we know our rule is that for our original coordinate x, y, we're going to go to negative y, comma, x. So if we're going to go ahead, let's check this with the point, let's use y. So we're looking at y and y prime. So y is located here at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, so positive 5, positive 3. And then y prime is at negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, 2, 3. So the rule says we put the y coordinate first and switch the sign. So if I put the y coordinate first and switch the sign, that's not going to make a whole lot of sense there, right? So we could say that this one's definitely incorrect. And for good measure, if we check the rule for 180, for 180 degrees, we would take xy. And when we rotate, it would be negative x, negative y. So a rotation of 180 degrees is kind of similar to how we've done a few other ones. Basically, the order of the points stays the same. That we just switch the signs from positive to negative or negative to positive. And we see, in this case, it'll work. And again, we could check the other points as well. The pattern will follow. We're good to go. Alright, these next 6, we're just carrying out a problem. So we're told we're not deciding between, we're just doing what we have given. So for this one, we have a translation. And since it's just x here, we're not going to move left or right at all. We're just going to move each point down 3. So 1, 2, 3. Again, let's make sure we get some nice visible points there. A, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. W, 1, 2, 3. Make sure we're using those nice prime symbols. And we're good to go. So again, make sure you review those rules for translations, that this signifies left and right, this signifies up and down. Okay, reflection across y is equal to 2. Well, y equals is going to be our horizontal line, whereas if we had x equals some number, then it would be a vertical line. So again, refreshing that vocabulary. So if I go to y is equal to 2, that would be this here for my line of reflection, my line of symmetry, or whichever synonymous term you prefer. So it looks like k is 1 below the line. So going in the opposite direction, I'm going to put it 1 above. So remember, reflections are all about opposites. G is 1, 2 above, so we're going to put it 1, 2 below. M is 1, 2, 3 above, so it now goes 1, 2, 3 below. And again, my artwork isn't the best here, but we see we have our reflected shape. Alright. Here we have a reflection across the x-axis, so that's like the line y is equal to 0. Regardless, though, we can just go ahead and highlight. Let me get something a little easier to draw with here. So that's our x-axis here. So we go across that, right? So F is 1 above, would be 1 below. C is 1, 2, 3 below, so it's going to reflect to be 1, 2, 3 above. B is 2 below, so it reflects to be 2 above. And we're good to go. Alright, 180 degrees clockwise. So again, when we do these, we want to make sure we utilize our rule. So I'm going to go ahead and write my rule down here. So x, y. And I'm doing 180 degrees clockwise. But we know with the 180, it doesn't matter if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. We have the same rule at play here, where we just switch the positivity and negativity of the ordered pairs. So let's go CVR. And again, you know that the order does not matter in which we do these. So C is at -2, -1. V is at -5, -3. And R is at -2, -4. Color here. So let me go ahead and do our switches here. So I usually write to the right, I know, but I'm going to go ahead and just go down here for the sake of room. And we're going to follow our pattern here of kind of doing each part of it all at once. So here we see that the first term is still the x. I just changed the sign. So for each of these x terms, I'm just going to change the sign. So we have 2, 5, 2. We see the y term is still the secondary coordinate. We just changed the sign as well. So those negatives are all going to turn positive. If they were positive, then they would turn negative. So again, we just switch the sign. Plotting our points. So at 2, 1, that is my new C prime. My V prime is at 5, 3. And then R prime is at 2, 2, 3, 4. And we're good to go. Alright, these two, we're going to do the exact same way, so I'm just going to kind of skeleton out the work here for us so that the video doesn't get too long. But again, we worked a lot with these. So first step, we write down our rules. So xy for counterclockwise. 90 degrees counterclockwise goes to -y, positive x. For clockwise rotation, we will be looking at y, negative x. So just where that negative goes. We see both the kind of order switches. So what we would do is write out each of those, and then we would plot accordingly. So again, writing out all of our points. Whoop, just happened. There we go. So we do H, I, D. In this one we have 4 points, but we're doing the problem the same. So G, D, F, B. So if you need to take a moment and pause the video, that's totally fine. I'm just going to go ahead and again skeleton out my work a bit here. So let's go ahead and do number 13 first. So we'll get the points, and then to complete the problems, you would just graph them as well. Okay, so it looks like my first coordinate becomes the y, and I'm going to switch the sign. So I'm going to take these y's and switch their signs. So 4 becomes -4. 1 and 1 both become -1. And then my second coordinate is just the same x value of my original, so I don't change the sign on those. Then we would just plot our new points. For here, it looks like my first coordinate is just the y value, and I don't change the sign, so I'm just going to copy those down as they are. Notice I'm paying very close attention. Whatever order I use here, I want to make sure I have the same one here. Same as here and here. That way, again, we can kind of have that nice fluidity to it. So I'm going to take my y values and just leave them as they are. And then we're going to go ahead and take the x's and switch their signs. So negative 2 becomes positive. Positive 3 becomes negative. Negative 3 becomes positive. And 0 is just 0. So we'd go ahead and plot those points, and then we'd have our translation there. Or not translation, our transformation of a rotation. Alright, here comes the big one, right? So we want to take our time with this, and I'm going to use a couple different colors here. Again, as we know, I have some colors you guys can utilize when you take the test as well. Or if you choose not to, just again, make sure we label things nicely. So I'm going to start with orange. Okay, so it says plot the pre-image, and again, label. So we're just plotting our first thing here. We got ACE. So A is at 6, negative 1, so that's here. C is at 3, negative 2. And then E is at 4, 2, 3. So that's where we are starting. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and grab another color here. So reflect ACE across y is equal to 1. So what it's asking here is that we also go ahead and label our vertices. So it's going to be A prime, C prime, and E prime. So I'm going to go ahead here, and when we're working with this composition here of transformations, let's go back to where we were. There we go. Remember, each time we carry one out, we just give it another prime symbol. So that's why I keep defaulting to the top. Alright, so when we do our next one here, I'm just going to kind of sketch these. So this would be A double prime, C double prime. Actually, no, we'll write this later because I want to use a different colored pen anyway. Alright, so for our first one, reflect ACE across y is equal to 1. So y equals, again, that's a horizontal line, so we're going across this line. So when I go across it, A is 1, 2 below, so it's going to be A prime is 2 above. E is 1, 2, 3, 4 below, so it's now going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 above. C is 1, 2, 3 below, so 1, 2, 3 above. Again, we see I'm nicely marking those as my primes. Alright, so if I write those coordinates, A is now at 6, 3. C prime is at 3, 4. And E prime is at 4, 5. Let's get a new color here. Okay. Translate the image. So again, this is our vector notation here, so it's just saying go left 5, and then positive means up, so up 2. So if we want to work on this one, we now have A double prime, C double prime, and E double prime. So it's the second one, that's why it gets those 2 primes. The third one will get 3. Okay, so we're going to move each point from our blue triangle here, our first one that we moved, left 5 and up 2. And if this were positive, it'd be right. If this were negative, it'd be down, just like we've talked about. So I'm going to move left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up 1, 2. Go ahead and label my point. That's going to be A double prime. C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. C double prime. And E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 1, 2. E double prime. Alright, so we're good to go there. So let's go ahead and write our coordinates. A is now at 1, 5. C double prime is at negative 2, 6. And E double prime is at negative 1, 7. Alright, for our last one here, we're doing a counterclockwise rotation of 90 degrees. So let's get a new color. Okay, I'm just going to use black for that one. So this one, our xy, is going to be translated to 90 degrees counterclockwise, is going to be negative y, positive x. So for this one, we're going to take each of these points. So I got A triple prime, C triple prime, E 1, 2, 3 triple prime. Sound like I'm talking about transformers right now. If you don't know what that is, you're really missing out. All right. So if we look here, our first coordinate becomes the y, and we change the sign. So for A, it's going to be a negative 5. My y here is a 6, so it's going to be a negative 6. Positive 7 becomes negative 7. My secondary coordinate is just the original x value. So it's 1, negative 2, and negative 1. And again, if you want to write those out vertically, or kind of how we did the arrow notation, there's plenty of room for to show work on this. Let's go ahead and plot our last one here. So A triple prime is at negative 5, positive 1. Nope, that's not correct. That would be here on our line of symmetry. So make sure you don't get confused between the line of symmetry and the axes from that reflection we did a few minutes ago. C triple prime is at negative 6, negative 2. And then E triple prime is at negative 7, negative 1. And yet again, I plotted this in the wrong spot. Negative 2 is down here. If it helps, you could actually erase this, which I may go ahead and do here, just because it's clearly confusing me visually. Okay, so we had A at negative 5, positive 1, C at negative 6, negative 2, and then E at negative 7, negative 1. And there we go. Alright, last thing. Here we go. Describe this translation. Well, to me, I'm looking here. I'm seeing that I'm going to be going right 13. So right. And then down 12. The vector form? Just nice and easy here. We just use our numbers here, so it's just 13 and then negative 12. Because again, the subtraction versus addition. We don't need to put a positive in front of a positive. If we look here, what is the x-coordinate in the image of negative 2, 10? So if we're remembering our vocab from way back before Thanksgiving break, the image is what we end up with. It's after our transformation has occurred. The pre-image is where we started at. So if we're looking at the image of this with the x-coordinate, we want to think about where it's going to be. So for the x-coordinate, we see that we're adding 13. So if I did negative 2 plus 13, oh, that doesn't say 13 at all, I would find out that my x-coordinate is going to be at 11. So filling it in, 11. And again, we don't need to put those zeros in front. Alright, looking over here. What is the y-coordinate of the pre-image? So if we're thinking about the pre-image, that means we're going backwards. So here, instead of subtracting 12, we're going to go backwards, take that y-coordinate, and we're going to go add 12. So again, working in the other direction. And that'll give me negative 5. So again, it's working in the other direction. Alright, and that will be it for our review. Again, make sure we're looking through this and asking questions as we come along.